Good evening, creative writing students and professor watching this. My name is Timothy Walker, and this is my oral report on Sheila Heidi, my nonfiction creative writer I chose for this presentation. So, when our lives are plagued with suffering by the inconsistencies of people, the illusion of social engagement, and the lack of an ability to choose from an abundance of activities, why would we go outside in the first place? Well, we go outside because this potential for failure gives us the ability to find true meaning. As creative nonfiction writer Sheila Heidi would put in her literary piece, Why Go Out?, where she explores her reasoning for interacting with the daily world through metaphors with smoking, her personal experiences and feelings, and just a bunch of different words which she weaves pretty well together, which at first while reading I thought, how can she turn, how to stop smoking into how to enjoy life better? And she really does, and it's what drew me to her work. A little background on her. Heidi lives in Toronto and Kawartha Lakes, Ontario. She is an author of 10 books and is currently in residence at Yale as the Frank Visiting Fellow and as an associate research scholar and lecturer in religious studies. I like religious studies. She was considered one of another 15 writers by the New York Times as creating work which shapes the way we, quote, the way we read and write fiction in the 21st century, end quote. She's known for her other works such as Motherhood, Women in Clothes, and All Happy Days Are Stupid, each earning its fair share of praise from various critics. So Why Go Out, her writing, is a self-analysis attempted by Heidi to better understand her motives for interacting with the outside world. She first concludes that she goes outside for 4 particular reasons: for desire, sociological curiosity, to test herself, and to hang out with someone. She likens her condition of a recent heartbreak to a smoker's and their cigarettes, physically feeling the effects of withdrawal from the tainted fuel of her unhealthy addiction to her ex-lover. Using her cigarette guru, Alan Carr, his book, Easy Way to Quit Smoking, Heidi is able to come to the realization that it's not until you tear yourself from everyone you love that it appears you're actually physically addicted to people. I like how she goes into the addiction to people and the addiction to life and compares it to cigarette smoking, because I often feel that sometimes maybe it could be the fear of missing out, or I think a lot of it's the fear of missing out, just in my own personal case. And sometimes, just like we want to take another hit of the cigarette, we want to go out again. We want to interact. We think we're going to miss something. And I would definitely second her on that addiction comparison. But her solution to the addiction of life is not to reject it, not to stop smoking, but to embrace it. The hardships and struggles alike each hold its equal worth, because to go through life, quote from her writing, paying through the nose to stick nasty cigarettes in her mouth, end quote, to suffocate, she's using a metaphor to just cramming cigarettes down our throats. We do that in order to appreciate the oxygen that comes when we aren't choking on our own fumes that we're smoking. If we're destined to be smokers, we'd ought to enjoy the inhale as much as the exhale, the darker days as much as the sunnier, if we hope to continue to adequately go outside. And that's another thing I really liked about her writing. I mean, on one end, her metaphor about cramming cigarettes down the throat was a bit... I didn't think it would work, because I'm like, how can you turn that into a nice, lovely thing that we can get a nice message from? And she does, so I recommend the writing. I ask myself the same questions though at times, like, why go outside when the world is the way it is? I'm not guaranteed a safe walk to the gym, or that I won't be smacked with a meteor at any second, or at all the functions I go to, not all the functions, but a lot of the functions, we're communing with brain poison and making superficial conversation. I mean, is any of that truly meaningful? I found myself enthralled by Heidi's passages. Her word choice was very funny, the ideas were out there, and she weaved them together pretty effectively. She took an existential topic and managed to make it easier on the brain through thoughtful inquiry and metaphors. Her writing helped give me a new perspective as to why I interact with the world the way I do, and how I can better control my affections towards the external world. Like, for instance, not not just rushing towards the cigarette or not trying to reject the addiction of life, but instead embracing all of it and just not overthinking it like she did, because that's kind of where she finds herself. She finds herself to almost overthink her issue, and at first she begins with a problem, so she thinks, and she ends with an answer that was found in the problem. I mean, instead of choosing to walk away from her addictions to life, she instead says, no, we ought to enjoy these addictions. We ought to stuff these cigarettes down our throats. That's the metaphor she uses. I again recommend you read it. So similarly, Rene Descartes came to a conclusion of existence through his meditations, and similarly, Heidi achieves her thoughts in a not so different manner. By isolating herself and reflecting upon the whys of her actions, she comes to an accurate and well-worded conclusion. We go outside to breathe in the smoke, to take on the chance of meteors or family drama. I find Heidi's piece to be impactful, as it reminds the reader that the difficult times are to be appreciated and welcomed with open arms, even when we are hooked to it like a smoker to a cigarette. And she just takes a different approach that I wouldn't expect out of other writers, using a cigarette analogy to better the view of life. I mean, definitely gave me some insight into my own writing and how I could take my experiences that I've experienced, and apply them to my writing and find deeper, more impactful meanings out of those stories that I've gone through in my own life, and how she takes her experience with cigarette smoking and her drama with her ex and everything else in between and turns it into some thoughtful writing. Definitely makes me excited to write my next page. Yeah, well, this has been my oral report. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful night/day. See ya.